We're going to show you guys how to load the new firmware onto Growatt off-grid inverters. There's a link up in our video, and it has the latest firmware for several different categories of off-grid Growatt inverters. They all load the same, and we're going to work on keeping that link up to date with the latest firmware. So it's typically a first step if you guys are having any kind of, random power failures, fan locks, or just glitches in operation. Flash the firmware, and then if we still have a continued problem, we'll work with you guys on getting what you need to rectify the situation parts-wise. But this is just a good, healthy thing to do for the inverter first before you go to the next step. So this is a 6 kilowatt off-grid Growatt inverter. It has on the front of it the same two USB ports that you expect, the standard Type A that you have your Wi-Fi stick going into, and then the Type B, and that is for this USB printer cable. Essentially, it's what everybody knows, a printer cable. B to A. We have one come with each inverter, and I'm going to stick one into the inverter. Now, I've downloaded that same folder that we have here on our comments, and it is right here on my screen. So I've opened that up. This is what you guys are going to get. Now, there is a Windows driver folder here, and there is a 64 and standard 32 x86 driver installer. You got to install the driver in order to run the software. I've already done that. So if you watch my device manager, which you can always get to in Windows, this is a Windows program, by the way, so you're not going to be able to do this with Mac. So that's your device manager. You're looking under your ports. So I've got the USB from the inverter, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. And as you can see, Silicon Labs COM9 came up. It's important to know what COM port we're communicating on. COM9 is the COM port. Now we're going to install the Isp Tool. This is the bootloader that has all the information. It's a 73 megabyte file. So we're going to open this up, and we're going to install the Isp Tool. Standard install process. Just crank that forward. Okay, finish. And we should have the Isp Tool exe opened. All right, comes right up. So just typed it in my search. So now you've got this loading. Now we've got to select our COM port. Now remember, we said this is COM9. We saw in Device Manager. We're going to go to COM9. And we are going to then go and load the file. So I'm going to pilot this to my desktop. That's where I downloaded the file. You guys might have saved it in your downloads, whatever works for you. A second here. So I'm looking for the Growatt. Okay, give me a second. As you can see, I've probably got the Growatt off-grid firmware update. That's the file that I download. That's what you get. So now you see 6 kilowatt, 12 kilowatt, and 5000 ES. I always use the right firmware. 6 kilowatts right there. Open up that file. Now we've got that loaded. Okay, flash file size, 114 kilobytes. Now, in order to make this work, we're going to start by hitting the closed function. That's going to put the inverter into bootloader mode. So if we hit closed, now we are going to test the function, and we see we have communication, and so we're going to start with the flash process. As you can see on our inverter side, the screen just went dark and the fault light is flashing. And it says send start. This is going to start writing the new firmware to the inverter. So this will be a process. There'll be beeps during the process. Overall progress is 2%, and this process typically takes about 5 minutes to flash everything. And all we're really doing is downloading this folder from the video, saving it on a laptop, and then you can just locally take this to any inverter that you have. So you don't have to have internet on the site. Just download the file and install the program on your computer, and then you've got what you need with the firmware. We may separate the two files. I've got it all packaged together with the executables. I'll see about creating a separate file for just the firmware because it'll be a lot smaller and easier to download. So that may be more convenient. So I'll try to split that up and put two links, one for firmware, one for firmware loader, because if you don't have to download the firmware every time that the software for loading the firmware every time there's just an update. So we're working on that. But yeah, this is just going to run. It's showed about 74 seconds. And we're just gonna watch it complete the process. That's really all that you have to do. So just download it and start loading up to the latest firmware, and that'll give you the best functionality you can get out of the inverter at the time.